My name is Nora Sinclair Hartley. I'm 33 years old, and 3 days ago my mother called me for the first time in 8 months. Not to ask how I was doing. Not to ask about grandchildren she's never once visited. She called to tell me I needed to sell my husband's farmland, $3.4 million, in 12 days, to keep the family out of bankruptcy. The same family that didn't invite me to Thanksgiving because my husband wouldn't fit the table. The same mother who told my nieces that Aunt Nora married beneath her. The same brother-in-law who once called my husband a glorified dirt farmer to his face. And now, suddenly, they needed us. Before I tell you what happened at my mother's 62nd birthday dinner, what got revealed in front of 38 guests, and the choice I finally made, like and subscribe if you're actually enjoying this, and drop your city and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you're all listening from. Now let me take you back to where this really started. 7 years ago, I was the daughter my mother bragged about at every country club luncheon. Dartmouth graduate, junior analyst at a boutique investment fund in Boston. The kind of resume that made Margaret Sinclair's whole face light up when she mentioned it to her friends. "My Nora," she'd say, swirling her Chardonnay. "She's going to run this whole industry someday." I believed her. I believed that was simply my destiny. The corner office, the tailored suits, a husband with the right pedigree and the right portfolio. Then I met Caleb at a farmer's market outside Eugene, Oregon. I'd driven out for a weekend just to breathe air that didn't smell like ambition and burnout. He was standing behind a table stacked with heirloom squash and fresh basil, flannel sleeves rolled up, hands stained with soil. He wasn't polished the way the men I usually met were, but when he talked about crop rotation and soil chemistry, his whole face lit up in a way I'd never once seen in a boardroom. I drove back the next weekend, and the one after that. When I finally brought him home, my mother took one look at his calloused hands and asked the question that would define the next 7 years of our relationship. "So, Caleb," she said, smile thin as tissue paper, "what's your real job?" He didn't flinch. "This is my real job, ma'am. I grow food." The silence that followed could have filled a cathedral. My sister Simone leaned over to her husband Grant and whispered something. They both laughed. I pretended not to notice. I noticed everything. Our engagement dinner should have been a celebration. My mother insisted on hosting it at her house in Westchester, a sprawling colonial she'd spent 3 decades decorating to impress people she didn't even like. 18 guests, champagne, the whole performance. Caleb wore his best shirt, ironed by his own hand, collar just slightly crooked, and I loved him more for it. Grant and Simone rolled up 40 minutes late in a brand new Porsche, and Grant made absolutely sure everyone clocked it. "Made partner at the fund last month," he announced to the room, loud enough for effect. When he shook Caleb's hand, his eyes dropped straight to my fiancé's boots. "Nice boots, they come with the tractor." A few people laughed. Caleb just smiled. "Actually, they do." Package deal. Then came my mother's toast. She raised her glass, and I made the mistake of hopping. "To Nora and Caleb," she began. "My youngest has always been headstrong, independent." A pause. "I only hope a few years from now she won't regret throwing away everything she worked for." She gestured vaguely at the two of us, at a life she couldn't begin to understand. My father, Walter, sat in the corner nursing his scotch, saying absolutely nothing. But my grandmother, Grandma Opal, reached under the table and squeezed my hand. "I like him," she whispered. "He's real." That night I made a decision. I would leave Boston. I would build a life with Caleb. I would stop waiting for my family to see what I saw. I just had no idea it would take 7 full years for them to come crawling back. Oregon welcomed us like an old friend. We bought 220 acres of rolling farmland an hour outside Portland, a fixer-upper house with drafty windows, a kitchen straight out of 1978, and a porch that groaned like it was keeping secrets. But it was ours. Caleb threw himself into that land dawn to dusk. Within 3 years, our produce was selling at 7 different markets across the valley. Within 5, we had standing contracts with high-end restaurants across Portland. Then came Sage, our daughter, born on a frozen January morning, screaming like she already had opinions. 2 years later, Micah followed, quieter, watchful with his father's steady eyes. I had never once been happier, but there was something I didn't talk about. Something Caleb asked me to keep quiet. His work hadn't actually stopped at farming. That first winter, while I thought he was just reading agricultural journals by the fireplace, he was finalizing patents, running calculations, taking calls with investors from a life before the flannel and mud, a life at Stanford. Caleb had a PhD in agricultural engineering. His research into precision farming technology had caught the attention of venture capital years earlier, and he'd walked away from every offer. Until quietly, he hadn't. No press releases, no flashy launches, just steady growth and clients who valued results over hype. "They don't deserve to know," he told me once, meaning my family. "And I don't need their respect." I never argued. I always wondered, though, what would happen the day they finally found out. The call came at 11 at night on a Tuesday. I was half asleep, one hand on Micah's back after a nightmare, when my phone lit up with a name that hadn't appeared on my screen in 8 months. Simone. She was sobbing, not the delicate, performative tears I remembered from childhood when she wanted something from Dad. Ugly, ragged sobs. "Nora, I need your help. We're in real trouble." I stepped into the hallway. "What kind of trouble?" "Grant, he made some terrible investments. Lost everything, the house, the cars, our savings. It's all gone." My stomach dropped. "How much?" $3.4 million. "In 12 days, or Mom loses her house too. She put it up as collateral for one of his trades." "She did what?" "She believed in him. We all did." A pause. "And now you want me to sell our land? It's just dirt, Nora. You have 200 acres. Sell a piece of it. Help us." I heard Caleb's footsteps behind me. "I need time to think." "We don't have time," Simone snapped, desperation curdling into something sharper. "You owe us. We're family." "I'll call you tomorrow." I hung up. But standing there in the dark hallway, one fragment from that call kept looping in my head. Grant had apparently told her, "Your husband's company was supposed to fail." Supposed to fail. What did that even mean? I couldn't sleep. After Caleb went back to bed, I sat at the kitchen table, laptop glowing in the dark, and typed Grant's name into the search bar alongside hedge fund. The article loaded slowly. Mitchell Capital partner Grant Wexler terminated following internal review. 6 months old. Mutual departure. Corporate code for getting pushed out. I kept digging. A financial forum mentioned his name in a thread about reckless short positions. Someone had posted, "Anyone see Wexler's bet against that ag-tech startup? Man went all in. Absolute madman." My hands went cold. I called Priya Nair, an old colleague from my Wall Street years who now worked in compliance. She picked up groggy on the third ring. "Nora, it's midnight." "I know, I need a favor. Grant Wexler, you know him." A dry laugh. "Everyone knows Grant Wexler or knew him. That guy's a punchline now." "What happened?" "Massive short position. Bet his entire net worth some sustainable ag-tech company would crash. Stock went up 290% instead. He got wiped out completely." She yawned. "Whoever runs that company must be laughing." "Really? Thanks, Priya, I owe you." "You owe me brunch." I walked back to the bedroom slowly. Caleb was awake, watching me. "You found out," he said, not a question. "How long have you known?" He rubbed his eyes and sat up. "About 8 months. Our quarterly reports showed unusual short activity. I had our CFO look into it. Grant's name came up. He bet against your company." "Our company," he corrected softly. "And yes, he did." I thought about 7 years of sneering comments, the dirt digger remark that still made my jaw tighten. "He wanted you to fail." "He needed me to fail," Caleb said, calm but with steel underneath. "He hated that you chose me over whoever he thought you should have chosen." It wasn't enough to look down on us. He wanted to profit from our destruction, and you just let it happen. What was I supposed to do, Nora? Call him up and gloat? The best response to people like Grant is to keep building and let them destroy themselves. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "We need to talk. Come to my birthday dinner. It's important." I showed Caleb. He read it, looked up. "Do you want to go?" I did, but not for the reasons she expected. The next morning, while Caleb fed the kids breakfast, I searched his company's name. TerraSense Technologies. A feature article appeared, dated 3 months earlier. The Stanford PhD who left Silicon Valley to reinvent sustainable farming. There was Caleb, not in flannel this time, but a simple navy sweater, standing in front of a greenhouse full of sensor arrays. He'd flown out for that shoot and never once mentioned it. The article detailed his doctorate at 26, the offers from major tech firms he'd turned down, years of quiet development, and then this line. TerraSense Technologies, now valued at approximately $53 million, has disrupted traditional farming metrics by pairing AI-driven soil analysis with regenerative practices. Founder Caleb Hartley remains notably private, letting the results speak for themselves. $53 million. My husband, the man my mother thought couldn't provide for me, had built something worth $53 million while wearing the same muddy boots, driving the same truck, raising our kids, never once needing to prove anything to anyone. Priya called back that afternoon. Found something. You're not going to like it. She forwarded a screenshot. An internal trading group chat leaked during Grant's termination proceedings, time-stamped 8 months earlier. I read it 3 times. My brother-in-law's little farm project is about to tank. Got solid info from an inside source. Their tech doesn't scale. Going all in on the short. Gonna make a fortune off his failure. The look on Nora's face when they go bankrupt will be worth more than the money. The look on Nora's face. He hadn't just wanted Caleb to fail. He'd wanted to watch me suffer. He'd used my mother's retirement money to try to do it. I called my mother. She picked up on the first ring. Nora, finally, you're coming to the dinner. Yes, good. Her voice softened strategically. We have a lot to discuss. The paperwork's ready. All you need to do is sign. What paperwork? For the land, Grant's handled everything. It's very straightforward. I almost laughed. I'll be there Saturday, Caleb too. A pause. Is that necessary? Yes, Mom, it is. Saturday, my mother's 62nd birthday, 38 guests. A contract I was expected to sign in front of every single one of them. They wanted social pressure to corner me. They had absolutely no idea what was actually coming. The restaurant was exactly what my mother would pick. Crystal chandeliers, white linen, a string quartet playing quietly in the corner. The kind of place people go specifically to be seen being wealthy. Margaret met us at the door, smile tight, eyes calculating. You came, both of you. Air kissed both my cheeks without contact. Happy birthday, Mom. Yes, well. A glance at Caleb, then away. Come, everyone's waiting. 38 guests filled the private room, my mother's society friends, a few of Grant's uncomfortable former colleagues, distant cousins I hadn't seen in years. In the corner, Grandma Opal caught my eye and gave a small wave, though her expression wasn't celebratory. It was worried. Simone sat near the head of the table, face blotchy under a thick layer of concealer. Grant beside her, jaw clenched, glaring at his phone. My father appeared from somewhere with a scotch already in hand, shaking Caleb's hand, the first time he'd ever done so voluntarily. Something was wrong in that room. Everyone was holding their breath. The main course had just been cleared when my mother rose. If I could have everyone's attention. The room quieted. 62 years. Can you believe it? Polite laughter, someone calling out that she didn't look a day over 50. Then her expression shifted. Tonight, I also want to talk about family, about what it means to support each other through hard times. My stomach tightened as she turned directly to me. My youngest daughter has been blessed with a successful little farm, a simple life, apparently a profitable one. Little farm, simple life, poison wrapped in silk. And right now, our family needs her help. A waiter appeared from nowhere and set a leather folder in front of me. I didn't touch it. All she needs to do is sign, my mother said, her voice amplified by the silence. Just a small piece of land to help her mother keep her home. 38 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Grant stood, smoothing his jacket. It's fair market value. Paperwork's all in order. Your husband's land isn't worth much anyway. Your husband's land, not our home where we raised our children. Go on, Nora, my mother pressed. Smile never reaching her eyes. You won't let your mother become homeless. You know what family means. The trap was set. Now it was time to spring it. The whispers started immediately. Poor Margaret. Imagine having to beg your own daughter. Simone leaned in, face flushed. Nora's always been the selfish one, abandoned us to play farmer's wife while we handled everything here. I felt Caleb's hand find mine under the table, steady and warm. Grant circled closer, sensing weakness. Let's be honest, your husband got lucky with some dirt. Least you can do is share the wealth. That's what family does. The least we can do, I repeated quietly. That's right. He was enjoying himself now, playing to the room. I mean, what's he ever really contributed? Plants, vegetables. My grandmother could do that. A few uncomfortable laughs. My father sat frozen, staring at the tablecloth like he wished he could vanish into it. My mother pressed her advantage. So, Nora, will you sign? Or will you prove to everyone here that you never really cared about this family? The room held its breath. 38 people waiting for me to fold. 5 seconds of silence stretched into 10. Then I stood, but I didn't reach for the pen. Quick pause right here, because I know things are getting tense. Before I tell you exactly what I said next, I want to know. What would you have done in my seat? Sign to keep the peace or stand your ground? Drop, sign, or stand in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what you'd pick. And if you're still with me, go ahead and hit subscribe now because it only gets wilder from here. Before I answer, I said, voice calm and clear, I have a question for Grant. His smile faltered. A simple one. Can you explain to everyone here exactly how you lost all your money? Grant's face went rigid. That's not really relevant. It's completely relevant. I kept my voice level, no anger, just facts. You're asking me to hand over $3.4 million. I think everyone deserves to know exactly where the original money went. My mother stepped in. Nora, this isn't the time. When is the time, Mom? When I've already signed, when it's too late to ask questions. Murmurs rippled through the room. I turned back to Grant. You were terminated from your fund 6 months ago, weren't you? I left voluntarily. That's not what the financial press says. I let that hang. But that's not even the worst part, is it? You didn't just lose your own money. You took Mom's retirement savings and invested it yourself, without telling her exactly how. My mother's champagne glass trembled in her hand. He was trying to help. Was he? Or was he gambling with your future? The room had gone completely silent. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. Grant stepped toward me, voice dropping low and dangerous. You don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I do. I pulled out my phone. I've spent the last 3 days learning exactly what happened to your fortune, Grant. It's quite a story. Would you like to tell them, or should I? Simone started crying. My mother gripped the back of her chair. Grant said nothing. I opened the message on my phone and read it aloud, word for word, the bragging, the bet against Caleb's company, the line about my face when we went bankrupt. Gasps scattered through the room. Grant didn't just make a bad investment, I said. He specifically targeted my husband's company. He bet everything, including Mom's retirement, on Caleb failing. My mother's face had gone chalk white. Grant, is this true? He couldn't meet her eyes. I had good information. It should have worked. He wanted us to fail, I said. He wanted to profit off destroying us, not because it was smart business, because he hated that I chose Caleb over someone like him. The company. Grant's voice cracked. What happened? It didn't fail, Grant. I almost felt sorry for him, almost. It grew 290% this past year. You lost everything betting against a company worth $53 million. The murmurs turned into something else entirely. Shock, confusion. 53 million, the farmer's company. I pulled up the article on my phone and passed it to the woman nearest me. It moved hand to hand, and I watched faces shift from confusion to disbelief to something close to awe. Grant shoved through the crowd to grab the phone, hands shaking as he stared at the screen at Caleb in his navy sweater standing in front of his greenhouse. That's, his voice had gone hoarse. He's just a farmer. Caleb had stayed silent this whole time. Now he stood, and somehow the room felt smaller. I am a farmer, he said, quiet but clear. I'm also an engineer. I have a doctorate from Stanford. A pause. The two aren't mutually exclusive. You could have heard a pin drop. My mother's glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. From the corner, Grandma Opal's voice rang out, thin but triumphant. I always said he was the smartest one in this room. The room erupted, whispers, exclamations, guests pulling out their own phones to verify. And Grant just stood there, the article glowing in his hand, watching his entire narrative collapse in real time. The chaos settled slowly. Guests found their seats again, but the energy in that room had completely flipped. Nobody was looking at me with pity anymore. They were looking at my mother. She stood frozen, broken glass at her feet, mascara starting to smear. Nora, please, we're still family. Whatever Grant did, Mom, I said, gentle but firm, I'm not signing anything. But you have the money, you could. Yes, I could. I picked up the leather folder and set it aside untouched. But this land isn't mine to sell. It's Caleb's legacy for our children, our home. I don't have the right to give that away. Simone lifted her tear-streaked face. So you're just going to let Mom lose everything? You spent 7 years telling me I made a mistake, I said, addressing the whole room now. You excluded me from Thanksgiving. You told my nieces I chose poverty. You cropped me out of family photos because Caleb wouldn't fit the aesthetic. And now you're asking me to sell our children's inheritance to cover losses from a bet made against us. We didn't know, my mother whispered. I didn't know what Grant was doing. Maybe not the details, but you handed him your retirement without asking a single question because you believed in the image he projected. I paused. You never once believed in us. My mother swayed slightly. Having money doesn't mean I owe it to people who spent 7 years hoping I'd fail. Nobody spoke. The folder sat there, unsigned. Caleb placed a hand on my shoulder and stood. Mrs. Sinclair, he said, calm and carrying easily across the room. I never needed your approval. I stopped expecting it a long time ago. But I also never wished you harm. Nora loves you even when you've made it difficult. He let that settle. So I want to make something clear. I won't sell our land. That's not negotiable. My mother's head snapped up. But I'm willing to help you keep your house. A personal loan, enough to cover the immediate mortgage payments and buy you time. Hope flickered across her face, desperate, grasping hope. But there are conditions. Grant, skulking near the wall, stiffened. 1. Grant repays every cent with interest over 5 years, documented and legally binding. 2. He gets professional help for the gambling, verified attendance. 3. You never ask us for money again, ever. I'm not taking charity from him, Grant snarled. Caleb didn't blink. Then don't, but that's the only offer you'll get from us. This isn't over, Grant spat, grabbing his jacket and storming toward the exit. Nobody stopped him. Quick pause here again, because that was the exact moment I watched my mother's face change. 7 years, and she finally understood something she'd completely missed the whole time. We were never the ones who needed them. They needed us. Do you think she took the offer? Did Grant ever come back? Drop your prediction in the comments before I tell you what actually happened. And if you're enjoying this one, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The door slammed behind Grant. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Simone let out a broken sob and ran after him. The spell-shattered guests reaching for coats, muttering excuses, gone within 10 minutes. Just the family remained. My mother lowered herself into a chair, looking suddenly, genuinely older, her carefully built image cracked beyond repair. My father moved first. I'm sorry, Nora. I turned to him. I should have said something years ago when your mother first started. I was a coward. I let her run everything. I let her push you away. I'm sorry. It's a little late, Dad. I know, but I'm saying it anyway. Something in my chest loosened. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something close to it. Grandma Opal came and wrapped her thin, surprisingly strong arms around me. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Your grandfather would be too. A week later, updates trickled in. Simone called first, not to apologize, but to tell me she and Grant were separating. She'd found credit card statements he'd hidden for years, debts she never knew existed. I don't know who I married, she said, hollow. I didn't say I told you so. There was no satisfaction in it. My mother sold the Westchester house, not because she had to, Caleb's offer still stood, but because she couldn't face the neighbors anymore. Word had spread fast. She moved to a small condo in Hartford. She never called. No apology, no accusation, just silence. My father, though, surprised me. He called every Sunday. Short, awkward at first, how are the kids, how's the farm, but he kept calling. Week after week, for the first time in 7 years, my father was actually trying. Grandma Opal did more than try. She showed up on our porch 2 weeks later with a suitcase and a tin of homemade cookies. I'm staying a month, she announced. I want to know my great-grandchildren properly. Sage and Micah adored her instantly. Late that September, sitting on the porch watching Caleb teach Sage how to check soil moisture, their laughter drifting across the fields, it finally hit me. 7 years ago, I'd been terrified, not of leaving my job, not of starting over, but of losing my family. I'd spent so many nights wondering if they were right, if I was throwing everything away for a man they'd never respect. I'd been waiting for them to really see me. Not the Dartmouth graduate, not the Wall Street analyst, just me, dirt under my fingernails, married to a man who grew tomatoes and happiness in equal measure. I'd just been waiting for people who were looking in entirely the wrong direction. You okay? Caleb had appeared on the steps, Mike on his shoulders, Sage trailing behind with a fist full of wildflowers. Better than okay, actually. I watched the sunset paint the fields gold. I think I'm done waiting. He nodded. He understood. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're protection for yourself, for the people who matter, for the life you've actually built. I couldn't make my mother love me the way I needed. Couldn't force Simone past her own insecurities, but I could choose differently. I had Caleb, Sage, Micah, Grandma Opal, and a father who was finally trying. That was enough. That was more than enough. A month later, Grandma Opal came back down for Sage's 6th birthday. We held it right there on the farm, a picnic table covered in wildflowers, a homemade cake with lopsided frosting, enough laughter to fill a cathedral. After the candles, once the kids ran off chasing fireflies, Opal sat beside me on the porch swing. I have something for you, she said, pulling a small velvet box from her pocket. Inside, an antique gold ring with a tiny sapphire. This was my mother's, and her mother's before that. I was saving it for the right moment. Grandma, this isn't for me, is it? She smiled. For Sage, when she's old enough, I want her to have something from the women who came before her. I took the box, feeling the weight of generations in my palm. Your mother might never understand, Opal said softly. She's too caught up in appearances to see what things actually are. But I understand, and I'm so glad you chose happiness over approval. We sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies drift across the darkening field. My mother still hadn't called. Simone was still sorting through the wreckage of her marriage. But my father sent Sage a birthday card that year with a check tucked inside and a note that read, "I'm sorry I missed so many. I won't miss more." It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was real. And real, I've learned, is worth so much more than perfect ever could be. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end. This one took a lot out of me to tell, but every comment, every share makes it worth it. If any part of this hit close to home, if you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect, I want to hear about it. Drop your story below. And if you're new here, welcome to Velmora Tales, where every story explores the messy, complicated, unforgettable side of family. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care of yourself and remember, you're allowed to set boundaries even with family, especially with family. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end. This one took a lot out of me to tell, but every comment, every share makes it worth it. If any part of this hit close to home, if you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect, I want to hear about it. Drop your story below. Welcome to Velmora Tales, where every story explores the messy, complicated, unforgettable side of family. Subscribe if this one meant something to you. Take care of yourself and remember, you're allowed to set boundaries even with family, especially with family.